want to talk to you about the Ryan plan, which passed the House and failed in the Senate. And I'm going to talk to you about where we are now and what the administration's proposals are. The President sent a budget to the Senate. It was defeated 97-0. So there was actually no real program or response from the White House. The Senate has not passed a budget in almost 3 years. There has been a budget passed in the House, but we haven't been able to get it through the Senate. Now, how do we cut and where we cut? There's a bill that's proposed by Connie Mack of Florida, and I'm a co-sponsor of it, which would reduce spending 1% a year over the next 7 years across the board. If we did that, we could reach a balanced budget in 7 years, but you're going to have some things like entitlements that are going to go above the 1%. And so what we're going to have to do if we were to take a 1% across the board cut is to realize some things are going to go up and some things we're going to have to cut much more than the 1% growth. And there's a lot of duplication in various departments in Washington, D.C. that can be done away with, and we can cut out the duplication. The problem is we're going to have people that are willing to take the heat to do it, because it's not going to be easy. And no matter what you do in this economic situation we're in right now, somebody's going to be really ticked off. Now let's start off by talking about health care and Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, okay? Social Security, can you put those figures up there? Social Security, and I know people have been paying into Social Security all their lives. I know it's taken out of your paycheck. So don't misunderstand. I understand. And people will say, well, I've earned it, and I deserve it, and that's just the way it is. All of our trust funds have, in effect, been raped by the overall budget. The real amount of liability that we have is probably $60 or $70 trillion. But we have a lot of Treasury bills and IOUs that long-term are covering that. But nevertheless, forgetting how much money you put in 1950 we had 16.5 people for every Social Security recipient. That means they were paying into Social Security. If there was a shortfall, that money was taken out of those revenues. In 1960 it went to 8.6. In the year 2000 it's 3.4. And in 2009 it's 3. And it won't be long until it'll be 2 to 1. So we have to realize that Social Security as an entitlement has to be dealt with. Now how do we do that? Because I know there's a lot of people that are 65, 67 now who are saying, you know, I get my Social Security, that's part of my retirement. You can't shop me off because you're going to leave me high and dry and it's going to cause chaos in my particular household. So how do we do that? The Ryan plan, which has been misunderstood, I know you've seen those commercials where they're shoving grandma off the cliff and all that stuff. That is just political hyperbole. Nobody wants to destroy the elderly, and nobody wants to ruin Medicare and Social Security. But we do have to deal with entitlements because it's well over half of our budget. And we already have a huge budget shortfall. Remember I said that 44 cents out of every dollar goes to pay interest on the debt. That leaves 55 cents. Okay, or 56 cents. And if you don't do something about the entitlements, which are more than half of our expenses, it's impossible. And you're going to end up digging a deeper and deeper and deeper hole, and the economy will founder, and we will end up with what you've seen in other countries like Zimbabwe, post-World War I, Germany, during the Weimar Republic, when people would get money one day and they would spend it immediately because the next day the prices would go up. And that's happened in a number of countries, and you're seeing what's happening in Greece right now, and you're seeing what's happening in other countries, and I anticipate that's probably going to continue and maybe even get a little bit worse. So how do we deal with it? Well, the Ryan budget says people 55 and older stay on the plan that we have, okay? That way, with the people who are already on the plan or be going on the plan, and this may have to be adjusted somewhat, but the plan that was passed by the House and sent to the Senate, 55 and older, you stay where you are. If you're under 55, we will have incremental increases in the retirement age. And And we're also talking about people being able to put part of their retirement money, especially younger people, into tax-deductible savings accounts within certain parameters. This has been tried in other countries, and it's worked. But nevertheless, 55 and older, no changes. Under 55, we're going to see the retirement age go up. When Social Security was first passed, the average life expectancy was in the 50s. And you can see, where's that other show? Here we are, right here. Life expectancy in 50 was 68, but if you go back even further than that, you'll find that life expectancy was lower than that. In 60, it was 70. In 2000, it's 76. And in 2009, it's 78, the average age. So we're having a lot of the babies born after World War II, right at the end, they're going to be retiring very quickly, and it's going to add to the life expectancy. It's going to add to the number of people that are going to get benefits. Because of that, we are going to have to, and you can get mad at me if you want to, I can't, it's just the way it is, we're going to have to start raising the retirement age to a level where we can financially support the system. If we don't do it, we're going down the tank. And I'm telling you that right now. Now let's talk about Medicare, and then we'll get into the questions and answers. And I'll talk about the deficit and some of the other problems we have, because I'm sure you've got a lot of them. Medicare, if you're 55 and older, you stay on the system we have. You don't lose your Medicare. If you're under 55, according to the Ryan plan, which I voted for, and I think it's not perfect, but it's a plan that we can improve upon, but it's a good guideline to get to the conclusion that we need to get to. If you're under 55, then you have the ability to buy through the private insurance system, like it would be the same system that members of the government, members of Congress do. There's a myriad of companies that you can, well, let me just finish. A myriad of companies you can choose from, like Blue Cross, Blue Shield, and others. Now, you say, well, what about those who are indigent? Those who are so poor that they can't afford it? Are you going to throw them out on the street? No, you can't do that. So on a sliding scale, you're going to see government subsidies for those who are indigent and can't afford the health care. And if you do that, you can solve this problem and extend Medicare without having it become insolvent. But you can't keep on just the way we're going, because the baby boomers that are coming are going to add to this system. We don't have the money. We're already in the red to the point. The increase in the debt has gone up almost $3.5 to $4 trillion in the last 2 years, and that's just the beginning. It's not going to get any better. Now you talk about Obamacare. We can get into the minutia of Obamacare, but in effect, it's going to be putting more control of health care in bureaucrats' hands. There'll be rationing of health care, and I think ultimately it'll lead to a European-style socialistic approach to health care. It hasn't worked in England. England is reversing its path and trying to get back more to a less government-involved system. So these are the problems that we face right now. Now, let me talk to you one more time about raising the debt ceiling. If we raise the debt ceiling, what we say is we're going to allow the government to spend this additional money up to the level of the debt ceiling. Now, the deal that was passed would allow the president to get $960 billion, almost $1 trillion in additional debt ceiling. $460 billion of that would be immediate, and then if certain criteria was met, he could come back to the Congress and ask for the remaining $500 billion to raise the debt ceiling. The problem with that is if Congress said that we hadn't cut the spending like we're supposed to, which I don't believe is going to be possible under that plan, then what will happen is we can pass a resolution of disapproval, saying we're not going to give you the money. But here's the catch. Then the president can veto the motion of disapproval. And if he vetoes it, it takes a 2/3 majority of both the House and Senate to override his veto, so he gets the money anyhow. So that's the problem we have. And raising the debt ceiling only is going to exacerbate the situation. What we need is we need to bite the bullet and deal with these problems. And I'm not just talking about the Medicare and the Social Security. Medicaid, I'm going to talk about that. I want to bring that up too. But across the board, we're going to have to deal with these problems. Let me talk, since I just thought about Medicaid. Medicaid, under the Obama plan, is going to be expanded dramatically. In Indiana, and the governor's talked about this, we will get 500,000 new people on Medicaid. Now, 500,000 people, you say, how are you going to pay for that? Well, the federal government's going to pay for it for the first few years, and then incrementally they're going to lower the federal amount that's paid for it, down to 99%, 8, 98, 97. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to end up costing hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions across the country, but it's going to cost in Indiana billions more here. When Medicaid first passed in the 1960s, they anticipated it could go as high as 25 million. Last year it was almost 2 billion. And it's going to go up even more if we don't deal with that problem as well. And so this whole idea of Obamacare being a panacea to solve this problem, it simply doesn't work, and I just touched on a few of the things. What we need is we need to pass a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, and the bill that we passed said we have to vote on a balanced budget amendment. So everybody says, well, that's what we want. Well, listen, voting on it does not pass it. It takes a 2/3 majority of both the House and Senate to pass a balanced budget amendment, and then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. I think the states would ratify it. But all we said in the bill was we have to have a vote on it. It did not say we had to pass it. And so, in effect, that means we aren't going to pass it. There's no way that the Senate and the House are going to get 2/3 to pass a balanced budget amendment, or I don't think almost anything else. So that's another reason why raising the debt ceiling the way we did, I think, was a fallacy. I don't think it'll work. There may be some budget cuts, but not significant enough to make a major impact.